I am going to state this plainly because there is no benefit to sugarcoating the reality of our situation. I have been involved in preparedness for 13 years, and there is one specific topic I almost never discuss at local meetings. The reason for my silence is simple self-preservation. If I spoke openly about these items, they would vanish from the shelves overnight. While the vast majority of people are panic buying the exact same bags of white rice, pinto beans, and overpriced freeze-dried meals, I have been quietly building a secondary secret stockpile consisting of 11 specific foods that most preppers completely ignore. I do not stock these because they are rare, and I do not stock them because they are fancy. I stock them because nobody else is paying attention to them. Here is the part of this reality that should make you uncomfortable. During the last genuine breakdown in the supply chain, I watched store shelves get stripped bare in a matter of hours. I saw white rice disappear by mid-morning, and canned beans cleared out completely before dinner time. Freeze-dried foods sold out online almost instantly, with back-order wait times stretching to 6 months. And yet, the 11 foods I am about to share with you were sitting there on the shelves, completely untouched. They were fully stocked, there were no purchase limits on them, there was no panic surrounding them, and there was zero competition. One of these items is the most ridiculous example of this phenomenon. It has been sitting in Asian grocery stores for years, unnoticed by the general public. It costs less than $3, has a shelf life that beats most dedicated survival food, and while preppers are dropping $30 on inferior alternatives, this item collects dust. Another item on my list is even worse in terms of how overlooked it is. Human beings have relied on it for thousands of years. It is dirt cheap, and it stores longer than most people will ever live. Somehow, the modern prepping community acts like it does not exist. The hard truth is that we are all watching the same videos, reading the same blogs, and buying the same recommended checklists. That is a liability, not a strategy. When the next crisis hits, and it inevitably will, the popular prepper foods will vanish first. These items will not. These are the 11 foods I hide from other preppers. The first hidden staple is bouillon cubes, the flavor weapon that everyone underestimates. Let us get this out of the way early. Bouillon cubes sound incredibly boring. They do not look tactical. They do not come in a bucket with camouflage branding or aggressive marketing. That is exactly why they belong in a serious stockpile. I learned their real value the hard way, by paying attention when others were distracted. Last year, I had a long conversation with an individual who spent over 2 decades managing food distribution at a national level. This was not a content creator or an influencer, but a man who actually sees what moves, what stalls, and what disappears during logistics disruptions. His insight was blunt. During the supply chain stress of 2024, bouillon cubes never experienced shortages. While rice pallets were being ripped apart and canned food aisles looked like war zones, bouillon just sat there untouched. This happens not because it is useless, but because people simply do not understand it. One single cube gives you the equivalent of 2 cups of rich broth. That is flavor, salt, essential minerals, and psychological comfort in a form that takes up almost no physical space. I have cubes that are over 3 years old, stored properly, and they taste exactly the same as the day I bought them. We need to talk about reality, not theory. When you're eating from a stockpile, calories keep you alive, but flavor keeps you sane. 2 weeks of eating nothing but plain rice and beans will crush morale faster than hunger ever will. People stop eating enough because of flavor fatigue. Children refuse meals. Adults become irritable and physically weak. If you drop 1 bouillon cube into a pot of rice or lentils, everything changes. Suddenly, the food smells good. Suddenly, it tastes like a meal instead of a punishment. That psychological lift matters more than most survivalists want to admit. Here is the math that should embarrass the freeze-dried food crowd. I keep around 500 bouillon cubes in my inventory. The total cost is under $30. That's 500 meals upgraded from bland mush to savory sustenance.
Preppers routinely spend $15 or $20 per freeze-dried pouch for food that still tastes bland. Storage is simple and effective if you ditch the cardboard packaging. Moisture is the enemy here. I transfer the cubes into glass mason jars and throw in silica gel packets, the kind you already get for free with shoes or electronics. Keep them cool and dry, and they will easily outlast your bulk rice.
Furthermore, bouillon is not just flavor, it is electrolytes. Sodium and trace minerals are critical during stress, dehydration, and illness. When you are sweating, underfed, or sick, that salt can prevent headaches, dizziness, and worse. This is not new knowledge. The military has included bouillon or broth equivalents in field rations for decades. There is a reason for that. During a crisis, no one is fighting over bouillon cubes because they do not look like survival food. That is the advantage. If you are serious about preparedness, stop overlooking the boring stuff. Bouillon cubes earn their place quietly, and that is exactly why I hide them. The second hidden staple is nutritional yeast, the protein bomb nobody stockpiles. This one makes people uncomfortable, and that is fine with me. Nutritional yeast does not fit the rugged survivalist image, but neither does malnutrition. Let me be direct. Nutritional yeast is one of the most overlooked prepper foods on the planet, and that ignorance is expensive. It is deactivated yeast with a savory, cheesy flavor. Yes, that sounds like health food nonsense until you actually look at the numbers. 2 tablespoons deliver about 8 grams of complete protein. When I say complete, I mean all 9 essential amino acids are present. That is nearly the protein content of an egg, but without the need for refrigeration. It is also loaded with B vitamins, including B12, which is critical for nerve function, energy levels, and mental clarity. These are exactly the nutrients people start lacking when they live off rice, pasta, and canned vegetables. I did not discover this through prepping forums. I learned about it from a neighbor who adopted a plant-based diet years ago. She would not stop talking about it, and eventually I tried it. Popcorn was the gateway, then rice, then soups. That is when I realized the value for preparedness. During a winter power outage, we were eating basic pantry food for days. Calories were not the problem. Appetite was the problem. Everything tasted flat and depressing. I started adding nutritional yeast to meals, and the shift was immediate. The children ate more. Everyone felt better physically. Meals felt intentional instead of desperate. From a storage standpoint, it is almost stupidly easy. You need an airtight container in a cool, dark place with no special handling required. The shelf life runs up to 2 years unopened, and even longer if properly stored. The cost is around $40 for 5 pounds. That is a massive return on investment for something that boosts protein intake and makes bland food enjoyable. The prepper advantage here is that hardly anyone stocks it. During shortages, nutritional yeast just sits there. Health food stores stay stocked. Online sellers do not panic while others scramble for powdered eggs. This stays available. In a prolonged crisis, nutrition gaps will break people down long before starvation does. Nutritional yeast quietly fills multiple gaps at once. The third hidden staple is full-fat canned coconut milk, which acts as emergency energy in a can. Most preppers have a dangerous blind spot regarding fat. Rice has none. Beans have very little. Freeze-dried meals intentionally remove fat to extend shelf life. The result is a diet that technically keeps you alive, but leaves you exhausted, cold, and mentally foggy. Canned full-fat coconut milk solves that problem cleanly and cheaply. I am not talking about coconut water or the milk beverages found in the dairy aisle. I mean the thick, creamy product in cans found in the international aisle. One single can delivers around 50 grams of fat. This is real, usable energy your body needs for warmth, brain function, hormone production, and calorie density. I learned this lesson during a winter camping trip. We were eating standard survival food and still freezing, tired, and mentally wrecked after a few days. One member of the group heated rice with coconut milk, and everything changed. Energy returned, moods improved. We stopped shaking from the cold. Fat matters. Coconut milk is incredibly versatile. You can add it to rice, stir it into soups, or drink it straight if you need immediate calories. It is shelf-stable for up to 5 years when stored properly, which beats most canned goods. It also stretches meals significantly. Half a can is able to double the calorie content of a pot of rice and turn a barely sufficient meal into something sustaining.
The price is another reason it stays ignored. It costs about $2 per can, often less at Asian markets. Compare that to overpriced emergency fat bars selling for 4 times the cost with worse flavor. I store about 50 cans rotated like any other pantry item, with the oldest in front and the newest in the back. I use them regularly so nothing expires unnoticed. In high-stress situations, your body burns through fat faster than normal.
Coconut milk delivers it in a form that does not attract panic buyers. That is strategic. The fourth hidden staple is potato flour, the long-game survival carbohydrate. This one confuses people, which is exactly why it works. I am not talking about potato flakes or instant mashed potatoes. I'm talking about actual potato flour. I stumbled on it in a small European grocery store, sitting ignored and dusty on a bottom shelf. That alone should have been a clue. After researching it, I understood why entire regions relied on it to survive harsh winters. Shelf life is the first reason it earns a place. Properly stored, potato flour lasts up to 10 years. Regular wheat flour barely makes it a year before the quality drops. It is naturally gluten-free, which becomes critical if anyone in your family has sensitivities and cannot eat standard wheat rations. During shortages, specialty foods vanish first, but potato flour quietly bypasses that problem. Nutritionally, it is rich in resistant starch, which supports gut health and increases satiety. Feeling full matters when food is rationed. It reduces stress and helps maintain a routine. Functionally, it is incredibly versatile. You can make flatbreads with just water and salt. You can use it as a thickener for soups and stews. 1 tablespoon replaces multiple tablespoons of cornstarch. Storage matters here. Do not trust the original bag. Use a food-grade bucket with a gamma seal lid and oxygen absorbers. That is how you get decade-long stability. The cost is about $8 for 5 pounds. That is absurdly cheap for something that versatile and long-lasting. Most prepper lists do not even mention potato flour, which means when panic buying hits, it stays exactly where it is. That is the pattern with every food on this list: ignored, unpopular, and uncontested. The fifth hidden staple is ghee, the fat that refuses to die. You need to stop thinking of ghee as simply butter with a funny name. That mindset is exactly why this fat flies under the radar while preppers waste money on fragile alternatives. I've kept a jar of ghee sitting on a shelf at room temperature for 4 straight years. There was no refrigeration, no special storage, and no vacuum sealing involved. I opened it recently, cooked with it, and it tasted exactly like fresh ghee should. There was no off smell, no bitterness, and no separation. That is not luck, that is chemistry. Unlike butter or most cooking oils, ghee has its milk solids removed. What is left is nearly pure fat, and that molecular structure makes it exceptionally resistant to oxidation. In simple terms, it does not go rancid the way other fats do. Heat does not scare it, and time does not scare it. This is not a modern hack. Archaeologists in India have uncovered sealed containers of ghee that were thousands of years old and were technically still edible. That alone should raise eyebrows in the prepping community. Yet somehow it never makes the top survival food lists. Here is where reality hits. During a prolonged heat wave and power outage in my area, I watched neighbors scramble. Their butter liquefied and spoiled, coconut oil separated and smelled awful, expensive powdered fats were useless because nobody wanted to waste precious water to rehydrate them. My ghee sat calmly on the counter in 90+ degree heat, completely unchanged. From a survival standpoint, fat is non-negotiable. Your body doesn't just like fat, it requires it for energy density, for brain function, for hormone regulation, and for absorbing fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. A diet of only rice and beans will keep you alive short-term, but it will grind you down fast. 1 tablespoon of ghee delivers concentrated calories that actually sustain you. It's fuel that doesn't need cooking precision or refrigeration. You can fry with it, stir it into grains, or eat a small amount straight if you had to. I store 2 kinds, standard ghee for everyday use and cultured ghee for morale. That second one matters more than people admit. Familiar, rich flavors help people feel human during long disruptions. Storage could not be simpler. Leave it in the glass jar it comes in. Keep it out of direct sunlight. That's it. No Mylar bags, no oxygen absorbers, no panic. While preppers chase short-lived butter powders with 2-year shelf lives, ghee quietly waits indefinitely. The 6th hidden staple is dried seaweed, the mineral insurance policy. Dried seaweed does not look like survival food, which is exactly why it is so powerful.
Researchers in Japan found dried seaweed preserved in temple storage that was nearly 1,000 years old. It wasn't destroyed, it wasn't nutritionally empty, and it was still viable. That should immediately get your attention. Now let's talk about the nutrient most preppers never plan for: iodine. Iodine is not optional. Your thyroid controls metabolism, temperature regulation, energy levels, and mental clarity.
When iodine drops, fatigue skyrockets, thinking slows, and the body struggles to function. You will not feel injured, you will just feel useless. During a prolonged outage last winter, a neighbor who had plenty of calories struggled badly with exhaustion and brain fog. A doctor later confirmed he had an iodine deficiency. His stockpile was heavy on grains and canned food and almost zero on minerals. My family did not have that issue because dried seaweed had been part of our rotation. One small sheet of nori can contain more iodine than many people get in an entire week. Wakame brings magnesium and trace minerals that support energy and mood. Dulse acts like a natural salty seasoning without relying on refined salt alone. What makes dried seaweed dangerous to ignore is how compact it is. It weighs almost nothing, takes up almost no space, requires no cooking, and does not need refrigeration. Yet it delivers nutrients that are very hard to replace once supply chains fail. The prepper advantage is obvious. Nobody is hoarding this stuff. Walk into an Asian grocery store during shortages and you will often find entire aisles untouched. Nori, wakame, kombu, and dulse are all sitting there while mainstream stores are stripped bare. Usage is simple. Tear a sheet into rice as it cooks. Drop wakame into soups. Crumble dulse over bland meals. It quietly upgrades nutrition and flavor without making a big deal about it. I keep multiple varieties because mineral diversity matters. The total cost is low, shelf life is long, and availability during a crisis is shockingly reliable. The seventh hidden staple is chia seeds, the ration multiplier. Chia seeds look harmless, trendy, and social media friendly, and that is why most preppers underestimate them. Historically, that is a mistake. Chia seeds were so valuable to Aztec runners and warriors that they were used as currency, not garnish. Here's why that still matters today. Chia seeds are one of the most efficient foods on the planet in terms of nutrition to volume ratio. They contain complete protein, high levels of omega-3 fatty acids, fiber, calcium, and magnesium, all in a form that stores exceptionally well. Omega-3 fatty acids are notoriously unstable in supplements, but chia seeds protect them naturally. Stored properly, their fat content stays usable for years. Now for the part that changes everything. Chia seeds absorb up to 12 times their weight in water. When consumed, they form a gel in your stomach. This slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and dramatically increases satiety. Translation: you stay full far longer on less food. I tested this deliberately. I ate the same meal 2 days in a row. With rice and beans alone, I was hungry again in 3 hours. Adding 1 tablespoon of chia seeds kept me full for over 7 hours. In a rationing scenario, this is massive. You are not just surviving, you are extending your supplies without feeling deprived. They also require zero cooking. You can eat them dry, soak them, mix them into anything, or drink them suspended in water. When fuel is limited or non-existent, that matters. There's another advantage most sources will not discuss, which is hydration. Chia seeds help your body retain water more efficiently, especially in hot conditions. That is one reason ancient messengers could cover extreme distances with minimal food. I store them vacuum sealed in dark containers. The shelf life easily reaches 5 years. 10 pounds costs roughly $60 and provides an absurd nutritional return. The eighth hidden staple is Asian market instant noodle blocks, which serve as morale ammunition. This one annoys purists, and I'm fine with that. High-quality instant noodle blocks from Asian markets are criminally overlooked in prepping, and the reason is not nutrition, it's pride. These are not the flimsy discount ramen bricks people imagine. I'm talking about the brands eaten daily across Asia. These are wheat-based, sometimes egg-based noodles with real seasoning blends and actual flavor depth. Here's the reality nobody likes to admit. Extended food monotony destroys morale, and when morale drops, decision-making quality drops with it. That's not opinion, it's documented psychology.
During a month-long test where I lived off my own stored food, my morale crashed around day 12. Calories were fine, nutrition was passable, but boredom nearly broke the system. Instant noodles change that overnight. They cook fast, use minimal water, and deliver warmth, salt, fat, and flavor in minutes. Seasoning packets often contain dried vegetables, mushroom powder, chili blends, and fermented flavors that trick your brain into thinking variety still exists. From a purely strategic standpoint, they're a pressure release valve. I keep roughly 100 blocks in secondary storage. They stack flat, store well, and cost very little compared to freeze-dried meals. Variety alone makes them worth it. The eighth hidden staple is Asian market instant noodle blocks, which serve as morale ammunition. This one annoys purists, and I'm fine with that. High-quality instant noodle blocks from Asian markets are criminally overlooked in prepping, and the reason is not nutrition, it's pride. These are not the flimsy discount ramen bricks people imagine. I'm talking about the brands eaten daily across Asia. These are wheat-based, sometimes egg-based noodles with real seasoning blends and actual flavor depth. Here's the reality nobody likes to admit. Extended food monotony destroys morale, and when morale drops, decision-making quality drops with it. That's not opinion, it's documented psychology. During a month-long test where I lived off my own stored food, my morale crashed around day 12. Calories were fine, nutrition was passable, but boredom nearly broke the system. Instant noodles change that overnight. They cook fast, use minimal water, and deliver warmth, salt, fat, and flavor in minutes. Seasoning packets often contain dried vegetables, mushroom powder, chili blends, and fermented flavors that trick your brain into thinking variety still exists. From a purely strategic standpoint, they're a pressure release valve. I keep roughly 100 blocks in secondary storage. They stack flat, store well, and cost very little compared to freeze-dried meals. Variety alone makes them worth it. Here is the overlooked advantage. During shortages, most people do not even think to check Asian grocery stores. While big box stores are chaos, these places often remain stocked simply because they are not on the panic buying map. Instant noodles will not win nutrition awards, but they will keep people eating, thinking clearly, and cooperating. In a real crisis, that matters more than perfection. The ninth hidden staple is textured vegetable protein, or TVP, the meat illusion that outsmarts scarcity. This one separates serious planners from people who just hoard cans. Textured vegetable protein is not trendy, is not sexy, and is not talked about often for one simple reason. It does not look impressive. That is exactly why it works. TVP is dehydrated soy protein, usually in small granules or chunks. It is bone-dry, feather-light, and shelf-stable for an absurdly long time. When rehydrated, it mimics the texture of ground meat so well that most people cannot tell the difference once it's seasoned and mixed into a dish. I did not find this through prepping blogs. I found it while digging into how long-distance hikers and ultralight survivalists handle protein. They cannot carry heavy canned meat. They cannot rely on refrigeration, so they use TVP quietly, efficiently, and without drama. Here is the hard math that should make you uncomfortable. 1 pound of dry TVP rehydrates into roughly 3 pounds of meat equivalent. The protein content is around 50 grams per cup once prepared. That is real, usable protein, not filler calories. Shelf life is where this becomes dangerous to ignore. Stored in Mylar bags or food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers, TVP lasts 10 to 15 years. That already beats most canned meat. Unlike freeze-dried meat, it does not cost a small fortune. The price check is about $6. That's the equivalent of 3 pounds of ground meat for the cost of one fast food meal. Meanwhile, preppers are dropping $20 or $30 on freeze-dried beef pouches that barely feed one person. Preparation is brain-dead simple. Add hot water or broth, wait 10 minutes, it absorbs liquid, swells, and takes on a meat-like bite. From there, it disappears into chili, pasta sauce, tacos, soups, casseroles, or anything where ground meat would normally go. That is the secret weapon, seasoning. TVP itself is neutral, which means it becomes whatever flavor you tell it to be. Add bouillon, spices, sauces, and fat, and suddenly your emergency meal tastes like normal food. I keep about 20 pounds of TVP. That's the protein equivalent of 60 pounds of ground meat stored in a fraction of the space, with zero refrigeration and at a fraction of the cost. This is protein insurance. It's quiet, efficient, unpopular, and completely ignored during panic buying. The 10th hidden staple is powdered milk, provided it is properly packed. This is dairy that outlives chaos. Powdered milk gets dismissed because most people mess it up. They buy it, leave it in the cardboard box, shove it on a shelf, and then months later it smells weird, clumps up, and tastes awful. They conclude that powdered milk is terrible. No, your storage method is terrible. Powdered milk is one of the most valuable long-term foods you can store, but only if you remove its two enemies, air and moisture. Here is the simple correction most preppers never make. Buy powdered milk in bulk. The moment you bring it home, repackage it into Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Seal them properly. That's it. Stored this way, powdered milk lasts 15 to 20 years. This is not theory, it's documented reality. Nutritionally, it pulls serious weight, offering protein, calcium, vitamin D, and calories. Unlike many emergency foods, it integrates seamlessly into normal cooking. You can drink it, bake with it, add it to coffee, make pancakes, biscuits, muffins, or creamy soups. You can even make yogurt or soft cheese if you know the process. That versatility matters during shortages. Dairy is one of the first categories to disappear. Fresh milk spoils fast. Shelf-stable milk vanishes immediately. Powdered milk, stored correctly, lets you keep making familiar foods long after everyone else has adapted to eating dry rations. I store roughly 30 pounds, which cost me around $80. That's decades of dairy capability without refrigeration. Show me another food that does that at this price. Here is a psychological trick that actually matters. Integration. I do not wait for emergencies to use it. I mix powdered milk 50-50 with fresh milk in everyday cooking. My family is used to the taste, so when powdered milk becomes the only option, there's no resistance and no morale hit. During a crisis, people don't just miss calories, they miss normalcy. Powdered milk quietly preserves that. Ignore it and you'll feel that loss fast. The 11th hidden staple is hard winter wheat berries, the long-term foundation most people skip.
This is the difference between being prepared and being future-proofed. Hard winter wheat berries are whole, intact wheat kernels. This is not flour and it is not cracked grain. It is the seed itself. When stored correctly, this is one of the longest-lasting food sources humans have ever relied on. Properly packed in food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers, wheat berries last 30 years or more. Some argue they last indefinitely. Compare that to white flour, which starts degrading within months and goes rancid in under a year. That alone should settle the debate. Here is why this matters at a systems level. Flour is a processed food. Wheat berries are not. Processing exposes oils to oxygen. Oxygen kills shelf life. Whole grain stays protected until you decide to use it. When you grind wheat berries fresh, you get flour with intact nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats that store-bought flour has already lost. That is not survival trivia. That is real nutrition. Yes, you need a grain mill. A manual one costs about $60. It is a one-time purchase. No electricity is required. That small investment gives you the ability to make fresh flour indefinitely in a grid-down situation. Now, let us talk about scale. I keep about 200 pounds of hard winter wheat. It costs roughly $70. That is enough calories to sustain my family for over a year. Calorie density matters when supply chains fail. Wheat delivers around 1,600 calories per pound. It stores compactly, stacks cleanly, does not spoil, does not depend on refrigeration, and wheat berries are ridiculously versatile. You can grind them into flour for bread, cook them whole like rice, sprout them for fresh greens in winter, or grow wheatgrass for micronutrients. While everyone else panics over bags of flour that will expire before the crisis stabilizes, wheat berries just sit there, patient, intact, and waiting. This is not flashy prepping. This is infrastructure. And infrastructure is what survives when trends collapse. Let me end this the only honest way possible. None of these 11 foods are secret because they are rare. They are hidden because most preppers are distracted by marketing, trends, and fear-based buying. They focus on buckets, pouches, tactical labels, and expiration dates designed to make you spend again. I do not stock these foods because they are exciting. I stock them because they work when shelves are empty, power is gone, and comfort matters as much as calories. Every item on this list shares the same traits: long shelf life, low cost, high nutrition, minimal storage demands, and zero attention during panic buying. That is not an accident. That is strategy. Real preparedness is not about owning what everyone else owns. It's about owning what nobody thinks to take. When everyone rushes for rice, beans, and freeze-dried meals, I already know what will still be sitting there untouched. Here is the uncomfortable truth. If your entire plan depends on popular prepper foods, you do not have a plan, you have a wish list. These foods kept my family fed, functional, and sane during real disruptions, not hypothetical ones. No drama, no shortages, no panic. You do not need more gear, you do not need fancier labels. You need better thinking. That is my secret stockpile.